What? Have you tried his coffee? No. That's really good. Yeah. Well, we back? We're good? We're done?
back,
Huh?
I
All
guess
right,
so.
very good. Tom Duggan here on the Paying Attention Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you're watching us on the podcast, Paying Attention Podcast YouTube channel, which nobody does, but we do have a lot of people who listen to the audio of this on iHeartRadio and iTunes. We appreciate that.
Also, you got Podbean as the hosting service.
Okay, I don't know what that is. Tell me what that is.
Podbean is an app for people that don't have iPhones. If you just have an Android or a Google phone, you download the Podbean app, and that's how you can get your Paying Attention podcast.
Podbean. I'm going to write that down.
BEAN.
Excellent.
Are you just a voice for everybody right now that's watching? Does anybody know where that voice is coming
Yes, that's
from?
Mr. Jonathan,
the
our
voice
fine
of God.
The voice of God.
Wait a minute. We have a voice of God. That was Mike. Remember Mike?
Yes, I do. Yes.
We used to have an old radio producer. He was a really big guy, like Joe Ligotti, and he used to come in, and I'd say, "Hey, Mike, we're talking about this abortion thing. What do you think about it?" And he'd be like, "I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's all right." Like he sounded like he had the voice of God. I didn't do a good impression.
That's awesome.
It's certainly.
But you can be the voice of God now if you want.
I guess I am.
Because we don't have Mike anymore. So
That's okay.
That can be you. So Paul Morano, my co-host, is here, and I have to tell you that the reviews are in.
About what?
About you.
Yeah. By the way, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
You have
good.
to have it closer to your mouth, though.
Okay. So what are these so-called reviews, Tom?
So, I get tons of email from people who hate me, and I read usually every single one of them because I love hate mail.
And the reason why you had me on in the first place is because you got hate mail about me.
That's right.
Okay.
Somebody randomly found a radio show of you
Okay.
and me talking, and they spent a paragraph hating on me and 6 paragraphs hating on you. I said, "Yep, that's what we got to get Paul back." So the reviews are in, and I have to tell you that the people who like the show and the people who hate the show are all unanimous in you being a part of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they like you being here.
What are they, nuts?
Yeah, I don't know. The haters hate you, but
Okay.
but they also listened longer. Like the other people, I sent things back like, how long did you listen to the show? What part did you tune out? What made you not want to listen anymore? Because I'm always looking to tune the show up and try and make it better so people listen more.
Sure.
And the people who hate you listened longer.
I didn't think I added all that much, but thank you, haters.
Quite frankly, neither did I.
That's the Howard Stern effect. The people that love him, it's their morning drive, and that's it. But the people that hate him put him on at work and go the full 4 hours.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So I know my daughter really hates you, which is great.
Okay.
Because most of our fights are about you, which is awesome because they're not about
I've never even met you before, and I'm starting to hate you. Well, you started off, you were late to the show.
Yeah. That's
Paul.
That's worth hating me for.
Right?
Everything in the universe happened this morning to keep me from the show.
Listen, today was the biggest nightmare day that I've had probably in my life.
All right, that makes 2 of us.
So every electronic thing that I own is not working right. So anyways, so this guy sitting, if you're watching on the podcast, if you're physically watching on the YouTube, the guy sitting next to me who looks like Satan, and he really does look like Satan, which is awesome because he's like totally the opposite. Paul Morano is here, and you have a show on the radio WCAP called Beneath the Surface.
As a matter of fact, I do. 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Monday nights, we go beneath the surface on a very interesting topic of usually of my guest's choice. Mm-hmm. But yes, 10 to 11, 980 a.m. WCAP.
Excellent. So we've got the first story I want to talk about today, Paul. It's really unbelievable. If I didn't have video to prove it, and I just came in here and talked about this, I'm pretty sure most people listening would not believe it. They'd believe something happened, that I was kind of close to what happened, but that I'm exaggerating.
What?
So we brought in video and audio. We're going to play the audio in a second, and we're going to stop it and chat throughout it. So we had Mike Demers here. Was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
And Mike has been on the show a couple of times prior. He's involved in a First Amendment case. The short of it is Mr. Demers sued Hafner's Oil Company and Acadia Insurance, who represents them, because Hafner's overfilled his mom's oil tank and pumped 250 gallons of oil into her basement. And then, according to Mr. Demers, the insurance people showed up and the environmental
it spilled over,
showed
right?
up. Yeah, it spilled over. Went everywhere.
Went everywhere.
It went not just into the into the basement, but it leached into the ground, into the water tables. There's a
Right.
stream nearby, and it's caused all kinds of environmental damage. By the way, as a side note, not one environmental organization that we called was interested in even looking into this situation. So all the people that run around with their flipping signs about stop global warming, as if that's going to stop global warming, is going to go, oh, they're holding signs, I'm not going to be around anymore. They had no interest whatsoever in this issue. None.
Okay.
The long and the short of it is he sued them because they promised him, according to him, that they were going to make it right. That they were going to put the Demers family back to where they were before the oil spill happened, and that their property wasn't going to smell like oil forever, et cetera, et cetera.
And it didn't happen, long and the short of it.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
So Mr. Demers sued them, and he lost. Part of the reason he lost is that Acadia's got multi-million-dollar attorneys to represent them, and they know every legal trick in the book. The other part is Mr. Demers couldn't afford an attorney, so he represented himself. And so it didn't go well for him, and he lost.
Do we know the actual reason stated as to why he lost?
You know, I actually have the court documents at my office.
All right.
I just can't remember what it said.
All right.
But it was basically that Mr. Demers had to prove beyond, preponderance of the evidence of what their legal duty was. He just didn't do it.
All right.
So after all that was over, Mr. Demers started a boycott campaign for Acadia and Hafner's. And his position is this: I know legally we lost in court. There's nothing we can do. The judge says they're not legally responsible for cleaning this up. But morally, these people came to my house and looked at my elderly 80-something-year-old mother in the eye and promised her they were going to make it right.
Yeah.
And I think they should keep that promise. Morally, I think they should keep that promise. So until they keep that promise, I'm doing a boycott campaign of the Hafner's Oil Company and the Acadia Insurance Company that promised my mom that they were going to make it right.
Now, he has no documentation or any other evidence that they promised to make it right, does he? Or does
Not only does he have documentation, he's got video.
Okay, he's got
Because
video.
when they started showing up at his mom's house
Yeah.
to assess the damage, he pulled out a video camera and started videotaping every single visit and documented every single visit and documented what they said to him, what they said to his mother. And so his position is they've made a promise. They're not keeping it. I think morally they should keep it. I have the free speech right under the Constitution to say that they screwed up and they should take care of this. Acadia decided to sue Mike Demers for defamation. They're claiming that he is defaming their company and their employees, that they did everything legally right, they went to court and they won, and this guy is defaming us. So Mike came on this show. He was on our CAP show a few years ago when he was trying to raise money he was trying to privately raise money when they said they weren't going to fix it. And so he came to us and said, we want to start like a GoFundMe page. We want to try and raise money to fix my mom's house. I called Ron Marsan, who was a member of the city council in Methuen, who owns a construction company. And he said, we'll help them out. We'll donate labor and materials. We'll do what we can.
Okay.
We did that big show, and then he disappeared. I had no idea all of this was going on until he showed up again about a year or so ago and said, they're suing me. They're not looking for money. Okay, so here's the funny thing. Acadia and Hafner's is not looking for money. They're not suing Mike Demers saying, you slandered us, you cost us business by bad-mouthing our company. Here's how much you cost us, and that's what we're suing you for. That's not what they're doing. That actually probably would have me on their side, right? Because that's what the law says, whether I like it or not.
Right.
But what they're suing him for is they're suing him to have the courts order him to take down his boycott campaign. Now, that's a First Amendment issue. And I think I know a little bit about the First Amendment, considering I've been sued 8 times and won all 8. So they get to court, and the lawyer for Acadia sees my reporter. Now, I've got 75-year-old Janet Aldrich, who she's an elderly lady. She's a great court reporter. She's got her video camera and her still camera. She goes to the court. She gets permission from the judge. She walks into the courtroom, and as they're starting the trial, here's what happens. You want to start running that, and we'll stop it.
Just recently learned after that proceeding, at least today, is being recorded. Right. And it's our understanding that it's being recorded by the news outlet of the friend of Mr. Demers, Tom Duggan, a Valley Patriot. C. Duggan, is that?
It's a Valley Patriot, Tom Duggan, I believe.
This is a gentleman who came to your house from that did an interview with you?
This is a gentleman that I had a radio interview with about the home makeover years ago, and this is the gentleman that did a follow-up news story on the home makeover, and he actually did a recent story on this case.
So what's your objection? High school. Yeah. Our objection is that.
Can you pause that, Mr. Jonathan? So this is attorney Michele Kenny from Pierce Atwood in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Who's she the attorney for?
She's the attorney for Acadia Insurance. She's the attorney that is suing Mr. Demers.
And who's the male voice? Is that the judge?
The male voice is Mr. Demers.
Oh, okay.
And the female voice that asked the question was the judge. I don't have her name. I'm sorry. I know it's on my phone somewhere, but I'm not going to look for it live. So attorney Michele Kenny says, in what you just heard, he's his best friend from high school. Now, I don't know where she got that. Probably from half listening to my show. But I think we talked about this the first time Mike Demers came on our show when we were on CAP. Mike Demers was not my friend in high school, okay? Mike Demers used to beat me up in high school. He used to shove me in a locker. He used to spit at me. And Mike Demers is largely responsible for me transferring out of the vocational school in Andover to Lawrence High School when I was
I remember him mentioning stuffing you in lockers.
Yeah, he thought it was funny. In fact, I still think he thinks it was funny.
Yes.
I have a lot of friends that treat me like that.
Right?
I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah, what's
You're
the
being
problem?
overly sensitive, you snowflake.
All right, well, listen, I got beat up a lot when I was a kid because I was a big mouth. And nothing has changed. The difference is now nobody can beat me up.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what changed.
Right?
Yeah.
So first she's saying, she's trying to convey, here's what she's doing. She's trying to convey to the court that we're on his side and we're not there as objective journalists and we're there to help him. Now, she's partially right about that because he's been on the show. They have not. They have not called me or contacted me and said, we want to come on the show and dispute anything Mr. Demers says. They're welcome to if they want. I'll be happy to have them on, and I'll give them as much time as they want. I fully recognize that I don't know everything about this case. They may actually have some good points on their side. Absent them calling and coming on the show or doing an interview, we're not going to know what those things are. But she's making it look like, and she actually says in the next clip that we're going to play, that I'm part of the, and I don't remember the exact words, but she's I'm part of the disinformation campaign against Acadia Insurance and Hafner's Oil. And all we've tried to do is get the information out. Because Mike Demers came to us with a story, we put him on and let him tell his story. And
so you were playing like the role of an investigative journalist.
Well, yeah, and so I'm taking what he's telling me at face value, that he's correct in what he's saying, as I would if Acadia was here, and then made my comments accordingly. But, not for anything. Think about this. This is a First Amendment case where they're suing a guy to take away his First Amendment right of free speech online. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take down – they want the –
Is there a precedent for this?
I don't believe there is. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't believe there is. So what they're asking the court initially is to have Mike Demers' boycott Twitter page and Facebook page and LinkedIn page and whatever else he has, Snapchat, to take it down. All right? So while they're arguing to the court to take Mr. Demers' First Amendment rights away, they start the trial by trying to have a reporter thrown out of a public hearing in a public building of a public proceeding in a court, in a civil trial.
Is it legal to film in
Yeah.
court?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, of course, the judge wasn't buying any of it. But let's listen to more of what attorney Michele Kenny from Pierce Atwood had to say.
Under Superior Court Rule 204, we think that we should have been given an opportunity to address the matter before broadcasting was permitted. Our concern, we understand the public policy of the state and of the court is to permit public access to court proceedings.
Can you pause that, Mr. Jonathan? So
Public access.
So I want you to understand what she's asking, because in about 3 seconds she's going to deny she asked it. Okay?
All right.
So what she's saying is that Janet Aldridge from the Valley Patriot is not there because of a public concern. She's not there because of freedom of the press. She's basically saying that we're not objective, that I'm Mr. Demers' friend, and we're basically there to get audio and video so that Mr. Demers can use it as part of his boycott campaign. That's what she's basically saying. She wants Janet Aldridge thrown out of the room. She doesn't want pictures taken, and she doesn't want video taken. That's what she said.
You guys are doing a hit piece.
Yeah, that we're going to do a hit piece. And you know what? After this, she could be right. right? Because Acadia showed with this one action alone what they really think of the First Amendment, didn't they? I mean, they're in the middle of a First Amendment trial, and she's trying to use legal maneuvering to have a reporter removed from a public courtroom during a public proceeding. Like, what does that tell you about what Acadia thinks of the First Amendment? It tells me they don't give two shits about the First Amendment. That's what it tells me. Paul, if you have a different thought,
it tells me that they're pretty cynical about human nature. Just because you may have known this guy in your past doesn't mean that you're going to support what he says. You're there to find out if anything of what he said was correct or not. I don't think that they understand that people like you can be objective in that way.
And I can, but here's the funny part. Even if she was right, like I always say, steer into the skid, right?
All right.
Even if she was right, even if we were there just to help Mike Demers, we were there to get pictures and video to give him to be part of his campaign against Hafner's. Let's say that I bought into the whole story and I'm on board with Mike. I'm there to help him.
Okay.
The Constitution doesn't say you have the right of free press unless you're helping Mike Demers. There's nothing in the Constitution that says anything about that. You have the right, if you are a reporter, to do what you want with that material. And so the judge calls her out on it, and then she denies it. This is great. Go ahead.
Respect that our concern is that not that these proceedings will be published by the Valley Patriot, but that given the nature of this case and Mr. Demers' admitted conduct with respect to manipulating photographic images and statements of parties in this case, that the proceedings today will become part of a ongoing campaign of defamation and harassment. Quite frankly, I don't want to be dressed up as a brainless fraud, and I don't want Mr. Perot to be next Thanksgiving's turkey based in today's beautiful suit. We're concerned about manipulation of the images.
I understand your concern. I suppose any one of us in this courtroom could be subject to the Demers calls parody. And I don't know if people have access to it. But I guess really what you're asking me to do is to enjoin a press member from being present.
That's not a request. We're not.
What are you asking?
Can you stop that? So now she lies. The judge says, look, I'm not going to enjoin the press. I'm not throwing the press out just because of what they might do with this information. And she goes, no, we're not asking that. Well, actually, we just heard you say that. That is exactly what you were asking.
So what did she say she was asking?
So now she's going to change the narrative, right? And this is why attorneys are loathsome human beings for the most part. That they can stand in front of you and argue that a house is blue until you go, yeah, but it's not blue, and have them go, no, I'm not saying it was blue. I'm saying maybe some people think it's blue.
Sounds like a lot of my Facebook discussions.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. So now she's going to change the narrative from we want the reporter thrown out to something completely different, which, by the way, is actually worse. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Asking that the defendant be enjoined from manipulating the photographic and the depiction of what's happening here today. That's our concern. We certainly don't wish to enjoin freedom of the press or publication of this proceeding as it is taking place, but we're concerned that the defendant will alter, manipulate, and use that.
Well, I think we need to hear your objection. If it's an objection to the press person being present, that's a whole different issue, and it sounds like there is no objection to that. I'm not going to issue an injunction to prevent future behavior. I'm going to rule on what is before me, and if there's an issue after my ruling, then I'll address it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Jonathan. That's the end of the clip. So,
well, let me understand.
So now it went from we want to throw the reporter out because they're on Mr. Demers' side to, oh, no, we don't want to take away the free speech rights of the Valley Patriot. We want to take the free speech rights from Mr. Demers from using the information Mr. Duggan's Valley Patriot's going to put out there. Can you issue a prior restraint, which, by the way, is so unconstitutional, it's unbelievable. To hear a lawyer even ask that question is disgraceful. She should turn her bar card in tomorrow to ask a judge for prior restraint. And the judge ruled correctly. She said, I'm not going to enjoin someone from doing something. My job is just what we talked about in the first half of the show, right? The government's job is to respond to what people do, not to stop them from doing things. And she said, if he does something after today, then you can bring it to my attention and we'll adjudicate it then.
Right.
But think about what Miss Attorney Michele Kenny from Portsmouth, New Hampshire was asking. First, she wants a lawyer. First, she wants a member of the press thrown out. She comes up with all these excuses because I'm his friend, as if that's constitutionally relevant. It's not. Then the judge calls her on it, and she says, no, we don't want to take away his rights. We don't want to take away Mr. Demers's rights. And the judge wasn't buying that either. What does this tell you about what Acadia, and specifically Attorney Kenny, thinks about the First Amendment? And I really hope that the judge at the end of this trial looks at what they tried to do to us at the beginning of the trial and sees that it's the exact same thing they're doing to Mr. Demers. They're trying to silence people who say things that they don't like. Mr. Demers has parodies and artwork online where he harpoons and he mocks Acadia Insurance and Hafner's and some of their employees. That's protected speech under the First Amendment. It is. And I'm shocked. I watched that video last night. First, I laughed my ass off for about a half an hour. I watched it about 10 times because the video is way better than the audio.
Can I ask a question yet?
Sure. Go ahead, Paul.
I want to know what problem she was having. Particularly, it sounded like she feared that you were going to doctor some pictures.
Yeah.
Is that what she said?
Yeah.
So it seemed like that was her main fear. They're going to take these pictures and do what with them?
Maybe make fun of her.
Maybe make fun of her.
Yeah, because one of the things that Mr. Demers has done, and I wish I'd brought one with me, he's taken a couple of the employees that were involved in the actual case, and he put one guy in a bunny suit and mocked him. And put
that kind of thing.
Boycott Hafner's, and he's got the guy's picture there.
Right.
And it's the real guy, right?
Okay.
So that's what they're objecting to.
So he's afraid that he's going to do that with the pictures that your lady was taking there.
Right.
And judge make sure that they don't do that in this newspaper.
Right. Because God forbid the little snowflake, Michele Kenny, has her picture in a bunny outfit. God forbid some guy. Look, Mike Demers is a destitute 50-year-old guy who lives with his mom. Okay, the guy's got no money and no job. And they're dragging this guy into court every day to try and get him to stop his boycott campaign, which is basically what he lives on now because his whole family is bankrupt because of this situation. Okay, but he lost in court, and legally he has no redress. However, Facebook is not a courtroom. Twitter is not a courtroom. And as we talked about, I think you were still my co-host back when Travelocity screwed me out of a vacation. There was supposed to be a hot tub in the room, and we had a big problem.
I think that was right afterwards.
So I went on vacation. I called Travelocity. I told them I need a hot tub in the room because I have a bad back. They swore up and down that they'd have one. I got there wasn't one. I called Travelocity. They didn't want to make it right. The most they would do is they said they'd take $20 off my bill. But that doesn't help me, all right? So I went around and around with Travelocity, and they wouldn't make it right. So I started a Twitter campaign called the Sleeping Gnome. And I went on Google and I found a gnome, and I made it, and I manipulated the image so he's laying down sleeping, and I put little Z's coming out of him, and I put Travelocity on it, and I started posting it on Facebook. I should have that right. Because even though legally they probably don't have to give me the $20 that they offered, maybe legally they don't have to make it right. They don't have to give me a free hotel room somewhere because I'm unhappy with their service. But morally, they made a commitment that if I did business with them, that I would get a certain thing if I gave them my money. And I gave them my money, and they didn't give me that certain thing. So I don't care what the law says. What I do care about is publicly shaming people who do a bad job.
And you think we have a right to do that, and we do.
I check the papers every morning to make sure we still have that right, but so far we still do.
The judge in that particular case apparently agreed with you to at least she agreed that she can't stop that possibility from happening. Now, did she at all say, if it does happen, we'll look into it?
Yeah, she said, if something happens after today, bring it to my attention, whatever your objection is, and we'll adjudicate it then.
And that brings up a question to me, because it seems like you're saying the First Amendment covers all kinds of disparagement against people who you believe wronged you or businesses.
Right.
Is there a line?
Sure.
And where might that line be?
Sure. If Mr. Demers went on, let's say Mr. Demers went on Facebook, and he got a picture of one of the employees with his wife and his kids, right? And he says, Mr. Smith, who works for the Acadia company, was cheating on his wife last week, and here he is in a picture with his family pretending that he's a great family man. Well, you know what? That's slander if it's not true. And so if he did that, then yeah, you've got redressive grievance. If they could show that what Mr. Demers did was illegal and cost them business, if they walked into, when he first called me, when Mike Demers first called me and said they're suing me, I said, for how much? And he said, they're not asking for money. So what the hell are they asking for? They want me to take down all my posts. They want me. They want the court to take down my free speech right.
So you're saying that if he made a vicious lie against one of these people, then they might have a case against him.
So let's say that let's say Jim Smith works for the Hafner's Oil Company, and Jim Smith got fired because Mike Demers put a bunch of stuff that wasn't true about him online.
Yes.
Mr. Smith could sue Mike Demers because he's been aggrieved. Something happened to him that wasn't lawful, and he suffered financially for it. But they're not asking for that. They're not saying we lost $10 million worth of business because this guy keeps hurting our business. They're saying he hurt our feelings. He made us look bad. He's mocking us. It's unfair. He's being mean to us. He manipulated. Did you hear? He's manipulating images. Like, have you been on Facebook? Have you seen one meme in the last 5 years that wasn't a manipulated image of some public person? Like, do you live in the fucking real world, lady, or what, Michele Kenny from Portsmouth, New Hampshire? Like, give me a fucking break. Excuse my French. But, you know, you're in a First Amendment trial. What better way to show the court that you're not taking away someone's First Amendment right than to try and throw a reporter out of a public proceeding? Like, are you kidding me? God, I hope they.
The judge had nothing to do with it.
I hope they add me to the lawsuit because she made a comment in there that made it sound an awful lot like she was saying that I'm part of the disinformation campaign against Acadia. And I got to tell you, if Acadia called me tomorrow and said we want 2 hours on your next show, I would have all of those lawyers sitting here explaining to me, but they'd have to answer the questions. That's the thing. Like, it's a double-edged sword. You want to come on the show, I'll have you on as long as you want.
Look, apparently they don't want to look bad,
no,
right?
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Well,
here.
guess what?
They don't want to look bad.
Guess what? You attacked a member of the press during a First Amendment trial. You're now going to look bad. And I haven't posted the video or the story yet because I wanted to break it on the show today. I wanted to play the audio. The video is actually even way better because you got to see her face. But I'm going to have this story up today or tomorrow. And then I'm going to send it to our friend David Rothstein at Fox 25. We're going to send it to Russ Contreras at the AP. We're going to send it to our friends at the Boston Globe. We have friends at the Lowell Sun. We have friends at the Manchester Union Leader. I think they changed their name now. They're just the Union Leader or something. I'm going to send it to every member of the press that I know that I'm friends with that cares about the First Amendment and say, hey, what do you guys as members of the press think about this company trying to throw a member of the press out of a public proceeding? Don't you think that's news? And I guarantee you, Miss Michele Kenny is going to have her picture in the paper somewhere in the next week. Certainly it will be in the next Valley Patriot, I promise you that. I mean, walk the walk. Walk the walk. If you're upset about whatever Mr. Demers did, you don't hide it. You don't try and have a member of the press thrown out. And I'll reiterate, even if I was there for all of the reasons she said that we had someone there,
yes,
that's not an exemption to the First Amendment. I mean, National Lampoon could send a guy to a public trial for the purpose of mocking everybody involved, and they're still members of the press. There's nothing.
That's true.
How did this girl get through law school? Like, it's 101. It's constitutional law 101. The press has the right to be in a public proceeding in a public trial. Now, other exceptions, yeah, if it involves maybe the rape of a minor or something like that, where you've got legitimate safety concerns, where you're dealing with minors and stuff.
Well, you'd be infringing upon that minor's right.
Right, and the minor can't give consent, right? So I get that. But those are very rare exceptions, and certainly it's not this. Certainly it's not there's an exception to the First Amendment if you're going to parody someone later on. Or her being concerned or wanting the court to be concerned what we're going to do with the information after we show up and videotape and take pictures, Paul.
Basically, they're, in a sense, they're playing a Donald Trump on you and calling you fake news.
Right. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that.
Okay.
Because that means they're underestimating me. And every single time I've ever won a major case or a major issue, it's because people underestimated me. I think they're under the impression that I'm some guy who's just a blogger in my mom's basement and that I'm just friends with this guy, and if they just attack me in the court, that it'll help their case, that they can convey to the judge that, you know, the deck is stacked against them. They're the real victims here. And who knows? Maybe they are. Maybe they are the real victims. Maybe Mr. Demers is just totally out of line and there's stuff we don't know about. But in the meantime, there's never, unless it's one of the exceptions we talked about, there's never an excuse in a public proceeding to have the press removed. I mean, 75-year-old Janet Aldrich is no threat to anybody. She's all of 4 feet tall. And she sat in the back of the room with her video camera running and didn't say 2 words to anybody on her way in or on her way out of the whole time she was there. And yet, we got her out of bed. She lives on the South Shore. And we got her to that courthouse on time at 9 a.m. And she, for no pay, spent her entire day there. And that's how she got treated. That's how she got treated.
For the record, if she's taller than 4 feet, that's defamation of character.
Okay,
She can sue you.
Yes.
As long as the press isn't involved in the courtroom, right?
That's right.
Wow. So any more thoughts on this, Paul, before we move on to other stuff?
When you put the lawyer lady in the front page of the Valley Patriot, just don't put her in a rabbit suit.
I might.
Yeah.
Listen, we used to have Dave Sullivan, who used to do our political cartoons.
Yes, I do remember.
Dave retired
Yes.
2 years ago. We may bring Dave out of retirement for this particular case. Because, they're all concerned about manipulating photographs. But I wonder what they'd say if it was actual artwork where a guy drew her. Right?
Yeah, that's less of a lie, in a sense.
Right.
In quotes.
Because Mr. Demers is creating artwork. Right? Because that's what he's doing. He's taking images and he's putting them in bunny suits and he's creating artwork. And so they're trying to stop his parodies and his artwork from becoming public. They don't want the public to know what they did. That's what this is all about. They don't want the public. They got away with it. They pulled a boner and they got away with it. Fine. My father was murdered. The guy who murdered my father got off on a technicality. He got away with it. After he died, I was running around saying my father was murdered, and I got a call from this guy's fucking lawyer.
Really?
Saying if you keep saying publicly that your father was murdered, you're implying that my client is a murderer and he was found not guilty. Stop doing that. I told him to go F himself. You want to take the son of a slain cop into court and you want to sue me over that? Good luck to you, because the press ain't going to be – I might lose, but you're going to lose a lot more in the bad press. It's the same thing here. Just because Mr. Demers lost a case in court doesn't mean that he shouldn't have the right to express moral outrage publicly, at least in a free country. In China, you're right. In Soviet Union, in Russia, you're right. In most countries in South America, Central America, you're absolutely right. You'd have no right to do that. But in this country, we still have free speech rights. At least, again, I check the papers every morning because,
and
our free speech is under attack. If Mike Demers loses, hold that thought. If Mike Demers loses, people need to understand something. This will be a watershed case. This will be a precedent-setting case. If he loses this case, he has to appeal it. Because if he loses, people like me are in jeopardy. People like you do a radio show, you're in jeopardy. If suddenly you go into your radio show someday and you want to complain about Travelocity or Walmart or CVS or some big company because you had some issue with them and legally they can get away with it, but you're still outraged by what they did, you could get dragged into court. You can get dragged into court.
For saying something about it.
And you can be silenced. And so without even talking about whether Mr. Demers is right or wrong in his case, because we don't know, I suspect he's probably right. I've kind of sided with him on some of the points that he's made because it's outrageous. The one thing that everyone needs to come away from this story with when it comes to Acadia Insurance and Hafner's Oil, and I looked this up, and it's provable and proven, that they spent more money suing Mr. Demers and fighting this case than if they had just built his mom a brand new home. Wow. So that goes to show you they spent over $1 million fighting this case. His mom's house was worth $585,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood. Had they just purchased a piece of property on another street and built her another house, they still would have made more money. They wouldn't have spent half as much money as what they're spending on this case. So it's not about money. It's not about doing the right thing. It's about silencing someone who's making them look bad. They don't want people to know that they pumped 250 gallons into this lady's property. They don't want the discussion about the environmental disaster that happened on that property, or the fact that they had to have environmental people out there for weeks and weeks and weeks trying to clean it up and never actually got it all. They just don't want people to know. They want nothing to see here, move along, buy more oil from Hafner's Oil. And by the way, I know the people that own Hafner's Oil. I love those people. I have nothing against Hafner's Oil at all. In fact, I get my car washed at Hafner's. All right? So it's nothing to do with the people who run Hafner's. It has to do with you're a company, you did something wrong, make it right. When someone calls me and says, we subscribed to the Valley Patriot, I didn't get my paper for the last two months, I want my money back. We just had this lady, her name is Lorraine Smith in Haverhill, all upset. She bought a subscription. She sent the $65 in. 2 months in a row, she didn't get it. She said, I want my money back. We had terse words back and forth via email, but at the end of the day, I sent her back a check. She got her $65 back, and I renewed her subscription for the next 2 years. So she got her money back, and she's still going to get a paper for the next 2 years because we were wrong.
Then
Now,
why were there terse words then?
Well, there would be because of the way she came at me.
All right.
You know, she started off with, "What kind of paper are you? I
Yeah,
gave you
all
my
that-
money.
all that
Trying
She
to-
hurt his feelings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are you trying
There
to
you go.
steal from me? I sent you $65. You never sent me the paper." So, you know, someone who works for me had words back and forth with her. I had words back and forth with her. But at the end of the day, she's right. We're wrong. And because we're wrong, I am going to give her money back. I did give her money back. And even though I'm not legally responsible to do so, we're giving her a 2-year free subscription because we screwed up. Now, that's how I do business.
So you have a sense of justice.
Because if it was the other way around and I'm the guy that sent my $65 and I'd be pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're not perfect. We recognize we're not perfect, but we go out of our way to make sure we make things right when we do something wrong. And I think it would be great if some of these corporations would do the same. Unfortunately, Acadia and Hafner's would rather spend over $1 million silencing a destitute 50-year-old guy living with his mom than just building the house right and putting the rest of the money in your pocket. It's outrageous, Paul.
There you go.
So, anyways.
Not much else to say about it. We'll
guess.
see how it unfolds.
Yes. How much time we got? Oh, we're already at 3:30. You want to take like a quick 1-minute break and then we'll come back. We'll talk some politics.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
All right, Mr. Jonathan. Thank you. I'm out of cigarettes. Anybody a cigarette? Anybody? Beautiful.